Hello everyone, Sarah here with my 5 cards from Pink and Main's July 2021 card kit. I found it a little bit tough, this card kit. The pattern paper, although it coordinated beautifully, it was just too similar of paper, so I did have a little bit of a tough time trying to figure out how I can make a card of pattern paper. So you'll see what I kind of did later on with the pattern paper, but this kit, I actually just decided to just play and try different techniques that I've been seeing on YouTube. And so that's what these 5 cards are. The background here is that embossing folder, and I did add some, I believe it was Gathered Twig Distress ink, and I put it onto the folder and threw it into my embossing machine, manual embossing machine, my Spellbinders, there we go. And you can tell that it's not a smooth color, so definitely have to play around with that. But I liked how it kind of added the depth of the impression and the ink at the same time. I don't know where my finger daubers or my little ink spreaders are, so I'm using a microfiber cloth to just distress the outside of this image, which is done in Vintage Photo. I took that stamp, the really cute windmill, and I stamped that just with some Gathered Twig Distressed ink, same as the background. And then I just did a simple stamp, just to give that kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like an antique look. I like that feeling, that color. It looks really good. I could have done it in black, but definitely looks really neat in that brown, dark brown color. I wanted to play with the glitter tape, and I decided just to add a strip to the side. I was thinking about doing it on both sides, but like I said, I'm just playing around. So I wanted to just do things that I normally wouldn't do, just to see how these cards turn out. I might add a bow to this later. Not in this video, but later we'll see. I'll play around some more with the card, but right now it's just a single stripe on the left top hand corner. I am going to prop this this image up with some foam squares just to give a little bit of depth, and then I'm going to place that right in the center of the card. What I'm going to do after that is I want to tie in this red into the card. Because I do have that glitter card, I do want to tie it in. And I'm just going to take an Altenew watercolor pen. Keep in mind this is not watercolor paper. This is the paper that came in the kit. So once you put the ink on, it absorbs right away pretty much, and you can't spread it. So you just get a really sharp red. And I'm just going to color just a few things just to tie in that red. And like I said, it's just playing around. I do like doing this type of thing, but it would have been better probably if it was watercolor paper, just so that you can get the nice watercolor effect. Otherwise, I might as well have just used alcohol markers. Just to finish off this card, I am going to grab some red sequins. And that, once again, this is just to tie in the red throughout the card. I can tell you that these sequins definitely had a lot of static in the bag. As you can see me trying to maneuver them, and they keep getting stuck to my fingers. I did try to maybe rub my hands on my pants to see if that would do it, but I think that actually made it a little worse. So I took my just a pick, and I used that instead of my fingers. There is definitely a lot of static in that little packet of sequins. So I'm just going to move these sequins around. I'm going to do the typical 3 in the corner and 2 on the other side. And that's just to tie the red all the way through. It's definitely not a card I would normally make. It's fun, and I'm glad that I got the opportunity to just play around with some different techniques, like the embossing folder with the ink on top. I just wanted to see what that was like. But I really like the brown color for the stamp. I think that is the cutest. And I might do that again just for other, maybe simplistic cards. As you can see, I didn't actually add a sentiment to that one. I just liked the way it looked. For card number 2, this is a yellow piece of cardstock that I had in my kit, or sorry, in my stash. And off camera, I was playing around with taking the stencil. I don't know if you can really see, you can somewhat see there when the sun's shining on it. I I just put it through my Spellbinders and with the stencil and created that indentation. And then I took some of these gold circles. I used a hole punch to cut them out. And then I just filled in all the centers of those, looks like flowers in the stencil. Very simple card, a little bit time consuming just to put the glue on. But none of this paper actually was in the kit. This was purely just me playing around with some scraps, and I started liking what I did, so I decided to throw it in. I am using the stencil from the kit, and I will be using the stamp as well. So that's how we tie it all together. And the stamp I'm going to use is that banner. I really like it. It has a lot of sentiments along with it, so it's fun to play around with. And of course, you do get the die to cut it out, so you don't need to fussy cut it. Although it is fairly simple to fussy cut if you were to lose that die. I used the sentiment best wishes, and then I just left it. I didn't color it. I didn't do anything fancy with it. I thought the black stood out pretty nicely on that yellow card. And, you know, because I did leave a little bit of a white border on the outside, the white sentiment, like the banner part, ties in with that as well. I think it looks pretty good. I am just going to prop that up with some foam squares to give it some depth, and I'm just going to place that right in the center of the card. Nothing fancy with this card, just playing around with the idea of putting a stencil through my Spellbinders to create some depth, and then using a hole punch to create my circles, which I've been doing a lot lately, so you'll see that more and more, I think. And that's it for this card. Nice and simple, and I just love that background. Okay, card number 3. I don't know what that was about. I think I was testing the camera, and anyways, I'm just going to cut a piece of this paper that came in the card kit. I believe it's probably 110 pounds alcohol marker paper. I don't know, I don't remember. And I'm just going to make a scene with this one. If you remember what I said with the first card, this is not watercolor paper. So when you add ink to it, it is going to absorb right into the paper. However, that did not stop me from using my Altenew watercolor pens because I really wanted to use them for the stamp that I'm going to be doing. So what that pretty much means is that if you want to have color that's bright, then you can put the ink right to the paper. But if you wanted to dilute it, you can't really use water to do it. You'll need to do it off to the side and then take your brush and put it on so that's already diluted. That's pretty much what you have to do, as well as making sure you do not add too much water because the paper is not meant to hold that water. So luckily with the Altenew water pens, or yeah, watercolor pens, it's concentrated, so I didn't need to use too much water. If you're watching this, you'll see that I did create a little mask. I am going to put that on the bottom after I stamp this sentiment saying "Thinking of You" right in the center of that banner. And then I'm going to take my sunflower stamp and I'm just going to place it on top so that the mask will allow it to go behind the banner. And that's going to be my image for this card. I love this sunflower. It is really cute. I think if you were to make note cards with this, especially if you were to go back to the first card where you just use like vintage photo distress ink or any dark brown and just put in the center of the card, you can put in a sentiment or whatever, and it just looked really cute. But in this case, I am doing black. I did use some archival ink, and now I'm just going to color it with some watercolor. You'll see I'm adding water, but it's not really doing anything. I'll eventually just start using it. I have a little acrylic block on the side, and that's what I'm using to get it so that it's not so strong. I did fast forward this a lot just so that you can see the process. I thought it was kind of fun just to see the color slowly get added to this little image. So it didn't take too long to finish it. I did use a Micron pen, which is an archival ink, just to go between, it went really fast, but between the background and the sunflowers, I just added about 4 little skinny lines just to connect the field. Because I did mask it, you didn't see it. Actually, maybe it's actually part of the image. It's not part of the image, so I wanted to complete it. I think that's what it was. Just using some simple greens and browns. I don't have many colors, and so that's why the green's actually the same as the plant. I just use less of it so that it looked like a different color. Adding some blue to the sky. I'm not worrying about following the lines. I like to go out when I'm using watercolor, and you can see that with the sunflower too, kind of making it look like it's glowing. I just like that. It's so cute. And there we go, the nice quick little coloring. I will add a little bit more color to that Thinking of You. You'll see a little later. I took a piece of the blue cardstock that came in the kit. I love the linen effect that you get with this, and I think it is the full size. I believe so. Yeah, the full size. So that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then I trimmed down the main piece, the one I'm coloring right now. I believe that's 4 5 1/4. I'm just adding a little bit of yellow just to give it a little separation from the rest of the card because there's a lot of white. So with this stamp, you'll notice that there's like a little border on the top and bottom, so I just colored that in some yellow. I will keep this centered, nice and simple. I just love how the blue ties in with the sky in the picture. To finish this card off, I am going to grab these coordinating, what do they call it, enamel dots. Pink and Main definitely does an amazing job with coordinating their sequence, enamel dots, papers. Everything just coordinates so well, even their pattern paper. So I just picked some enamel dots that match the color that I use in the background. I did decide that I put a green one down, but I'm going to remove that once I start looking at it a little more. I'm just right now fussying with one of the dots. It wasn't in the spot I wanted, and then I couldn't get it off the paper, so I didn't have to add some glue. But a little green one, I'm going to take that up, and I'm going to replace it with a brown. I just didn't like how the green was standing out a little too much. The brown ones are really cute. They're very subtle, and I just love them. They have a little bit of glitter to them too. So cute. So really nice. And that's it for this card. Okay, now we're getting into the pattern paper. This is a Spellbinders die that I have. I don't have any circle dies that of the size I wanted. So I used this Spellbinders die, which created a bunch of rings. So what I did was I just grouped them in twos. This is all done off camera. I used the pattern paper that matched the color of the cardstock. So I used the red glitter, the green cardstock, the blue cardstock, and yellow cardstock, and then I tried to match the pattern paper to it. And this is where I said the pattern paper matches very well. The only one was I wish I had some yellow polka dotted so that it was all the same, but there was none, so I used a grid for the yellow. I did just glue them in on a piece of white cardstock. This was all done off camera. It was part of the Spellbinders card kit, Spellbinders die, and so I didn't really need to show that here. That would just take too much time. It took a long time to cut those all. So anyways, I glued this on sporadically. It doesn't look very good yet, but I will finish it up and fill in all the blank spaces. I'm going to cut off everything that's hung over the side and then use those scraps to fill in some more of the space. I just want to make sure that there isn't any color that is the same side by side. That's why I didn't end up using this green one, because I didn't know where to put it where there was space that wasn't next to a green. So even though it's a nice piece, I couldn't find a place to put it. So I probably should have put it, no, actually, not really anywhere to place it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the scraps of those cardstocks, and once again, I'm going to take my hole punch. I have 2 different sizes, and then I'm going to punch out the circles from the different cardstock in the kit. So there's the red, and now grab the blue, the yellow, and the green. I've been doing this quite a bit, actually. I like how you can just simply get some nice embellishments, circle embellishments, very quickly. Of course, if you had, for example, glossy accents, you could even make them look better. Not, I shouldn't say better. You could just make them stand out a little more, add a little depth, or add a little difference to the card. But I kept mine fairly simple, just cutting them out with a hole punch and then gluing them on. This card is not meant for those who have low patience. And that's not a bad thing. A lot of us just want to have fun and make cards, and some of us have a little more patience, for example, fussy cutting. And the reason I say that is because I took all these dots and I threw them all on the paper, and then I started gluing them one by one. To top it off, I also don't have my little jewel picker, so I had to do it with my fingers, which took it even longer. So I'm going to remove that all from this video so you don't see that. And there we go. I glued them all down, and then what I'm going to do is just trim off some that are overhanging, because just when you're doing this, make sure you do some overhanging because it creates the illusion that it's constant. If you don't do that, your eye will tell you right away that this is just in the center of the card, which could be fine if that's what you're looking for, but I want it to look like it's a pattern that's continuing. I'm going to take some of those enamel dots and I'm going to fill in all the centers just to give some nice sparkle and difference to this card. Okay, to finish this off, I did cut off, I don't need to show that because it's the exact same process as my other card, a banner that says congratulations. I thought this was a kind of nice congratulation type card with all this color and explosion of circles. And I'm just going to prop that up with some foam tape in the center. Okay, card number 5, this is the last one, and this is where I start playing with the paper some more. As I said before, I actually had a difficult time trying to figure out what to do with these cards, with this pattern paper, sorry. Normally, when I have pattern paper, I'll just layer them and try to make some designs out of the pattern paper. If anyone watches Christy Marcotte, that's what I'm trying to refer to, where you let the pattern paper kind of do its work and you just add some sentiments and embellishments, and it just looks phenomenal. I was having a hard time with this pattern paper to do that. To me, this pattern paper is perfect on its own as accents to other pattern paper. And that's what I probably will do later. So I didn't want to do that. I didn't really like how it looks. So once again, I'm going to just play and have fun with the tools that I got in the kit. Starting off is taking the stencil, and I actually have a pink and main brush. I forgot about that. That's what I'm using, so that was kind of cool. And I'm just going to use some tumbled glass, I think that was, and put that on the background, which looks really nice with that blue piece of paper, which is going to be my scene. I'm going to make a scene using the pattern paper. And also using the die that came in the kit. So it's not going to be flush. I'm going to leave a little border around everything, but you can see I cut all the shapes out of that, and I'm just going to see what I can do with it, just to have a little bit of fun. So I did create some hills with the polka dotted paper, but then I realized I kind of want a different contrast. I don't want them to be the same color, so I'll take another piece of pattern paper, and I'm going to find one that's a little bit darker, which is this checkered or diamond or grid, whatever you want to call it. That kind of gives it the effect that it is more in the background, that's why it's darker. So I'm just going to freehand a hill, and I don't need to worry about die cutting it because it is going to go behind the one that I already die cut. And there we go. It kind of has that Super Mario feel to it. For that piece on the top that is just supposed to be like a wispy cloud, Clouds always are different shapes. So I decided to go with a blocky cloud. I will I will change it up a bit just so it's not so flat. But once again, like I said, I'm just playing. I'm just doing whatever. These cards are just for fun. And so that's exactly what I want to do. I am going to add some different colors, just getting used to this brush. I think you just have to rub it off before you switch to the next ink. And that's what I'm just testing. I kind of tested on my hands to see if I had any color on it. But using that tumbled glass again, you don't really see it. I did pick the wrong color for this because it is very light, but it does add just the tiniest bit of color that you can see up close. I am going to glue all this down to my blue sky piece of cardstock, which was the blue linen one that came in the card kit. And I just want to make sure that I leave a little bit of a border around just to keep that uniform shape, because I just had already done it for the grass, so I want to make sure I did it for the sun or the cloud as well. That sun is a piece of yellow cardstock, and the background was the yellow cardstock I used for card number 2. And it's just a piece of scraps, and I just glued it to the back to create some sun rays. For the sentiment, I did pick the wrong one. It was supposed to say something about I hope your day is bright or something like that, but they're very skinny. I can't read them, and so when I took them out, I grabbed the wrong one, and it actually says, I am hoping you're well. So it's still a nice little sentiment, but it wasn't the one I wanted, which was because I had the sun, but that's okay. It is very cheery, a little cheery card for I hope you are well. So it does work out, it's nice. To create a separation, I am going to mat this on a piece of blue cardstock that I had in my kit. It's just 65 pounds. But I will cut more of these because I don't have my foam tape, and I don't want to use foam squares to prop that whole thing up. So I cut 4 pieces, and I'm just going to pile that up, and that gives you just maybe about an eighth, 16th to an eighth of an inch propped up. That's more than enough, and this is such a great way of doing it without using any foam. And it's the same color, so you don't really see it. Just making sure I put that right so I don't have to take it off, and I center that right in the middle of the card. I am going to take a little micron pen, and I'm just going to add a little bit of birds. Just a little bit. I was a little afraid of doing that because I had worked on it so much. So I just made them very small, just in a little background, just to play with the pen. Okay. Next, I'm kind of looking at that cloud, and I just want to play around with it more. It's kind of flat. So I do have this extra piece that I cut off, and what I'm going to do is freehand some cloud shapes with my scissors. And nothing fancy, just to create a little bit of texture on that. I will ink it up a bit with some of the blue and a very, very tiny bit of vintage photo, because the blue, like I said, it just matches that paper too well that you don't see it. So I will add a little bit of the vintage photo to create a shadow, more of a shadow, I should say. I cut it in half because I do want to create 2 layers. And since I am putting it onto the side anyways, it works. I don't need the full thing. I don't need the full cloud that I cut out. Next, I'm going to take the scrap and cut another cloud, but I'm going to follow the corner because I already cut it out with that die. It's perfect shape, and I wanted to just create another cloud in the corner. And like I said, it doesn't really make any sense. It's just a pattern, and I'm just playing. But what I was wanting to do is just create a little bit of texture to that shape. Kind of like when you look at a big fluffy cloud, and you can see that it's clouds on clouds kind of effect. But it's framed out and cut in the shape of whatever you call that, a frame shape. I guess. It's a rectangle with corners taken out of it. I'm just going to glue this down. I will add a little piece of powder paper to the back so that it's not sagging. Always do this if you're layering because it will not create that. You'll see it if you glue that down without the backing. The paper will kind of bend, especially if your paper is thinner. And I'm just going to glue that down. Still trying to keep that border on the cloud just so you can see some difference. To finish off, I am going to add some of the sequins. Once again, my hands are very staticky. Those sequins love to stick to my fingers. I play with the different colors, but I end up just using the red, and I kind of make it look like they're little flowers in the field. But I did play with the different colors. I did put some blue and whites on the clouds and some green on the grass, but in the end, I removed them all in frustration because of the static and just stuck with the red ones. Once again, I don't have my jewel picker, so I will tediously glue these down with my fingers, which is actually pretty challenging because you can't see where you're putting them. At least with my fingers, I can't see. I'm going to take the Micron pen. I found it really hard to see the sentiment on the polka dot, so I'm just going to add a little outline. It doesn't do anything, but it does, for me, I wanted to see if it would actually make a difference from making that sentiment stand out a little more. It doesn't really. You can't really see it. I showed the card to my mom, and she couldn't read it. It was just so hard to read. So that's card number 5. So here we are. I'll show you all my cards. I had a lot of fun. Like I said, this card kit, I was playing with the different techniques that I was seeing on YouTube, as well as just playing around and not really trying to create amazing cards. I love my cards. I just was playing and having fun more than trying to create aesthetic cards. Except for the sunflower. That one I actually was purposely trying to make nice. I had a great time with this kit. Like I said, everything matches so perfectly. I had a lot of fun, and I'm so glad that I was able to have a chance to play with it. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this creates some inspiration for your kit. And until next time, have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.